A new book is helping readers discover the power of redemption and purpose. Brother John, a monk, a pilgrim, and the purpose of life, shares the true story of an entrepreneur, August Turak's road to finding an authentically purposeful life. Last week, Lauren Ashburn talked with the author about his journey.
Joining us now is August Turak, the author of Brother John. Welcome to the program.
Glad to be with you, Lauren.
In 1996, I read that you had a skydiving accident and after that struggled with depression. Through that process, you spent time in a Trappist monastery that inspired the book. Tell me about that.
Well, I was always had a very, very strong spiritual drive. And even though I was an entrepreneur and was starting my own companies, I was coaching college students at the time. And some of my college students tempted me to go skydiving with them as a quote unquote team building exercise.
Yike.
And as I like to say, I was brave enough to jump out of an airplane, but not brave enough to tell them I was too darn old to be jumping out of airplanes.
I did this when I turned 50. It's a hard thing to do.
So anyway, hard enough that I smashed my ankle to smithereens. I compound fractured both the fibula and the tibia, and I ended up in the hospital. And suddenly I'm having these terrible panic attacks, and I don't know where they're coming from, and terrible depression. And suddenly I realized I was confronting my own mortality for the first time. Yes, the doctor was telling me, you're going to go home here in a week, but what's going to happen in a few years when he says, Mr. Turak, there's nothing we can do but make you comfortable. And this exacerbated the panic. And then I reached out for my religious upbringing, for all the praying and seeking and all this stuff that I'd done, and there was nothing there. As Father Christian told me later on, it's called Deus absconditus. I had nothing to fall back on.
So you write about facing the challenge of finding purpose in life and looking for transformation. I want to read a passage from the book. You write, "We must resolve to act decisively while trusting in the aid of something we don't understand and can never predict. We must open ourselves to the miraculous, to grace." So how did you do that?
Well, I think that the very first thing that I did right after that was I got a telephone call and I went to this Trappist monastery. And I wasn't, it's just something about a phone call from a student of mine who was there at the time. I just up and went. So I acted pretty decisively. My business partners weren't all that thrilled with how decisive I was. But I went down there for a weekend, then another weekend, then another weekend. And then I applied to become a monastic guest, which means you actually wear a habit and you live with the monks. You get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I actually said I'm going down for 3 weeks. Over Christmas, which is pretty decisive again. I walked away from my business again, and it was a very embryonic stage at the time. And I went there for 3 weeks, and that's when the incident happened between Brother John and I that really radically transformed my life and led again to this Templeton Prize essay that I wrote that is the basis of Brother John.
For most of us, life is like that. It's frenetic, overscheduled, harried, stressful. I could be speaking from some experience. So what would Brother John tell us to help us find our center?
Well, he would say that first of all, you have to have that center. I mean, this is where faith comes in. I wrote another book called Business Secrets of the Trappist Monks. I talk about how the monks work everything from a position of faith. You have to have that core faith that you're actually operating out of. Again, faith is not necessarily just the things you believe in. Faith is the thing that keeps you going when you don't really know why you're doing it anymore, and you have all the doubts in the world. Faith is what gets you started and keeps you moving. And I think you have to have that profound sense of faith that keeps you going in the face of darkness.
Before we go, the book is just beautifully illustrated, but we never see Brother John's face. Quickly, before we go, why is that?
Well, it was done intentionally by the artist. Glenn Harrington, by the way, illustrated the book with 22 full-color oil paintings. And Brother John is not just a man. I saw him a couple weeks ago, so yes, he is a man. He is alive today. But he is also a figure. He represents a Christ figure, a guardian angel. He's our leader. We're the one we're following him into this darkness that we don't quite understand, into grace. So it's on purpose. We wanted him to be, yes, a real man, but on the other hand, something bigger, a symbol as well.
August Turak, author of Brother John, thank you so much for sharing your book with us.